Welcome, everybody, and much thanks for coming along. There will surely be some technical glitches, and I apologize in advance. Today, we've gathered some content creators and makers to discuss the ins and outs of knife making and social media, finances, deplatforming, value, tricks, and secrets to success. Is social media good or bad? And whatever we have time for, we'll cover. So, thank you, Honor from the YouTube channel Dies in Every Film, Gatter from the YouTube channel Blackbeard Projects, Alex from the YouTube channel Outdoors 55, and Toby Murrell from the excellent Toby Fire and Steel podcast. He has a Toby Murrell YouTube channel and the UK Knifemakersupply.com, so check that out. So I want to start with some statistics. As you guys know, YouTube and other social media platforms have just exploded. Right now we have Facebook with 2.74 billion active users, YouTube 2.29 billion, WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger have billions of active users. Instagram, 1.2 billion active users. TikTok is rising now. It had about 700 million last count. Snapchat, 500 million, also rising. And so there's all these different platforms now, and they're competing for our attention. I guess the question is, on the balance, is that good or bad? So I want to set the tone with a quick question for you guys to just go around and answer, and it goes like this. If you could have $20,000 to spend on new equipment or have 20,000 new organic Instagram followers, what would you choose? Toby, you first.
Dang, all right. I think I would have the 20,000 genuine Instagram followers, to be honest. I think you could do a lot with very little tech. There's a lot of people with really good YouTube channels with using phones, and I mean my DSLR is 11 years old. You can definitely do stuff. Doesn't have to have slow-mo and all that sort of stuff. It's very cool, but genuine followers are hard to come by. I think it's easy to buy them, but if you want real genuine followers, people who are going to be fans as well as sort of supporters for the long term, I'd pick them any day of the week.
People you can engage, right? Gatter, what do you think?
Very mixed feeling about this, but I think I would go with tools.
Tools, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Honor?
Well, what I would do is I'd want 20,000 followers and I'd ask them all to give me £1. And then I'd spend that 20 grand on equipment.
Yeah.
So
all right. So you got both. All right.
yeah.
You know how to farm your followers, I guess. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take the tools, the equipment. Yeah, for sure. I'm always thinking about what I can do with new stuff rather than trying to get more followers, I guess.
Okay, cool. So I would probably side with Toby, to be honest. I have a lot of tools. Maybe that sort of sets my answer a little more towards one direction, but I would say that the value of organic followers, especially 20,000 on Instagram right now, is pretty powerful. So that's sort of where I think that's where I would go at any rate. So you guys are all content creators in one form or fashion. What's your overall opinion? Does being a content creator make you happy? Are you satisfied being a content creator as opposed to creating stuff? Jump in.
We're going to the same order.
You guys just jump in and talk.
Yeah, I think it really depends on, well, for me personally, I try to follow the kind of Gary Vee way of not trying to constantly create content. I'm just sort of documenting what I do. And so I think if I'm just documenting what I'm doing, there's not really, well, it's not that there's not a lot of energy goes into it, because I still think about what I'm doing, but it's more about what I'm enjoying doing anyway. So if I'm making something I like making, then by doing the odd story or a video on that isn't a massive hardship. Whereas if I was having to create something specifically, and I did do it for a while on YouTube, I think we probably all have, trying to make the videos that you think are going to go crazy. Yeah. There's actually a lot less fun in that, because you're not making it for you, you're making it for other people. So yeah,
I totally agree. Honor, what do you think? Are you satisfied making content?
Yeah, to be honest, I think once you get over the chasing numbers side of it, it just becomes quite enjoyable, you know. Especially like obviously the previous question, organic followers, you know. I mean, I'd be happy just posting content and then getting people's opinions from genuine, even one or two genuine followers, and I'm happy with that. So at the moment, to be honest, I'm quite enjoying it, especially the social media side. Obviously the YouTube side takes forever, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to like film more fun stuff for social media. But obviously, you're not getting monetized with that, but I suppose it'll all pay for itself in the end. In the long run.
So it sounds like a little bit you had to push past a point. You mentioned that you had to sort of get back to doing it for the right reasons, or was there a period where you were really unhappy with creating content? Especially, I think for me, YouTube content it can be difficult. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's at like certain points. Obviously, you put a video up, it don't do very well. People are watching it. People don't aren't concerned with it. Then you're thinking to yourself, well, if people aren't watching it, the money's not coming in from it. You know, my time, what I've put into the video, I've taken time away from work, so I'm not earning money from work. I'm not earning money from the video, and it becomes sort of a bit of a stressful run. But YouTube, like as much as people like to say about algorithm stuff, the algorithm's always changing, and no one's ever going to know what the algorithm is. And eventually, if you just keep flowing as you go, you'll hit the algorithm anyway, because that's what it's designed to do. The algorithm's designed to change, and it sets itself in with the way you work. So trying to chase an algorithm, it's sort of like chasing your tail. You know, it becomes a bit pointless. But like now, I'm not chasing the numbers for the likes. I'm not chasing for the numbers for anything. I'll just post stuff. Sometimes it does well, sometimes it doesn't, and eventually, down the line, it'll come into its own. And I'm seeing it sort of like a bigger picture. Like the more popular I am on my social medias, on YouTube, on Instagram, then obviously regarding my knives, in the long run, I can start charging more and more for knives as I become more popular. So it's sort of like a long game business idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, Getter, do you guys ever feel like you're on a treadmill with social media?
Well, I wanted to say, like, for the first couple of years that I was doing YouTube, it was actually harder than now because I was not making enough to live with it, but it still was a full-time job like it is today. So right now I feel way, way better than I did like the first couple of years that I did this. So now I enjoy it a lot.
At what point did you transition? What happened specifically to make you more comfortable and maybe less stressed or whatever?
One day, one of my videos got many views, and after that it was like it started like almost like YouTube recognized that I had good content and started promoting it way more. So before that, it was pretty much impossible to make a living of YouTube.
Are you in a pressure cooker? Do you feel like you have to meet that standard with every video? Do you ever feel like you have to attain a certain level of viewership?
Yeah, like I feel the pressure that I don't want to put out bad content. And ideally, one would always want to make bigger things and better things. So that aspect has to be balanced a bit with what you can make in a timely manner, because you have to keep publishing content for YouTube to work well. Otherwise, if you just strive for the best, you'll never publish, and without views, you don't make money.
Well, it's sort of like making a knife. At some point, it's got to leave your shop, and you can't. It's not always perfect. Alex, do you feel like you have to feed the beast? Are you on that treadmill?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the first 2 years, I basically, I mean, I made nothing on YouTube, and then, you know, it was kind of like all of a sudden YouTube recognized that I was a safe advertising channel and started making some money, and then it kind of took off from there. But I do, you know, I base most of my living around YouTube now, so it definitely feels like a job sometimes, but there's good, you know, ups and downs for you know, on both sides of it. But yeah, it can definitely be kind of a pressure cooker, in that you gotta, you know, try and meet the same standard every single time. So
Yeah, I feel that way too. It's not my full-time job, and the money I make on it's meager at best. But there's definitely, I feel like I'm always on a treadmill to meet a certain quality standard, interest level, and you sort of, I mean, have you guys ever been tempted to do the clickbaity stuff and find some boobs to work into your thumbnails? Or, I mean, how tempted are you to, like, because there's clearly, you know, putting a shocked expression on your face in a thumbnail. There's all these ways to manipulate. Are you guys drawn in?
I'm definitely guilty of the clickbait here and there.
You have to, like, there is no way around it.
Yeah.
In a way or another, you have to make things look interesting, so it's pretty much normal.
How do you define clickbait then? At what point are you suckering people in, and at what point are you just trying to
No.
glamorize your content or put the best face on it? Where's the line in the sand?
So I gotta jump in. I actually made a video on this and then finished it but never published it because I think it came off the wrong way. But so in my opinion, clickbait is when you make a thumbnail and a title that has nothing to do with the video itself, or has very little to do with the video itself. If it has something to do with the video, then it's not clickbait.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
No, I think that's right. I think clickbait is anything the Daily Mail writes, like any title to a Daily Mail story. If
misleading.
If it's misleading and we've all seen those ones where it's like, I don't know, a car that's whatever, and it makes you think, oh, that's amazing. But when you click on it, it's got nothing to do with that car. It's just like randomly the same. Has everyone still got Zoom? I've lost Zoom.
Oh yeah, I still got you. You're still good.
Okay.
Yep.
I just think that as long as you're actually, even if you've Hollywoodized it a little bit, it's not the end of the world because the people are getting the content you are putting on. Whereas if you blatantly lie in the title or blatantly lie in the picture, then all you're doing is turning off the people who you actually want to watch the next video and the next video, not just that one. Click on it for 5 minutes, go, this isn't what I thought it was, and then turn it off.
Yeah, your viewer attention would drop, which obviously for YouTube and adverts and monetizing, I find you don't really want. Although so many videos on YouTube of these idiots who clickbait, and it's just absolute junk, and people watch it. I don't even know why people watch it. It's so bad.
Exactly.
Like, I've played a prank on a guy, and it's the guy. It's the guy in all your other videos who was just one of your friends, and you pranked him, but it was just a guy in the street then.
Yeah, so to some degree, there's a lot of money to be made playing to that algorithm, for sure.
It's actually almost a genre of video to itself. I think it's become if you're faking these videos, people will watch a video right to the end, hoping to see the thing that the title told them it was, or the. I mean, we see it on TikTok quite a lot. TikTok's like, wait to the end, and I've done it. So sat at the end and go, wait, what? Nothing happened. And then I've watched it twice or 3 times, thinking, did I miss something? And then I think, how dumb am I? I've literally watched this person's video 3 times, trying to work out what I missed. But actually, it was an outright lie. It was just to get me to watch it, so the algorithm would pick up on it. And so I think it's actually almost become a genre of videos that people probably can make a living out of if you're prepared to just be full of it on every video.
Yeah, totally. That's one reason I can't take TikTok. It's like this short form, just everything's hyperbolic, and there's definitely a lot of sort of clickbaity type stuff on there. I've not been able to. I know, Honor, you sort of transitioned to TikTok to some degree.
Yeah, I've been on it about 4 weeks now. I think I'm enjoying like the fact that people get to see your content. I quite enjoy that, but then it's still hit and miss. You know, it's the same as any other social media thing. It's I'm trying to use it as a drive for my videos mostly.
I think it's a good. I've been on it for about 2 years or a year and a half, and I actually think it's. Weirdly enough, I was quite early on it, and I had about 8,000 subscribers within a very short amount of time on TikTok, and it was my largest platform for a while. And I think if you use it right, it's got to be native content. You almost can't, although people are more and more, but you almost can't just take a YouTube video and whack it on there and hope it works, because 60 seconds, or I think you can do 3 minutes now. But like Honor says, if you're using it to drive people to find other stuff, I think it's definitely worth it. But it's a lot of educational content on there. It is good.
It's more because the reach on there is pretty organic, whereas Instagram, the reach, the sort of limit it, like a few of your own followers will see it, and then it'll reach. I think on each one of my posts I maybe see 5% of external reach on Instagram, whereas on TikTok it's pretty organic. You know, it just flies out to anyone. So obviously that's why I use that for the drive, because it's helped bring some in, but I've only been on it 4 weeks, so I'm still learning how to use it.
Do you see it supplanting like Instagram or YouTube in any way, or do you think it's just sort of one more platform that offers a slightly different format? Because what I saw recently was, I feel like I saw people leaving YouTube for Instagram and now sort of migrating back to YouTube because there's no way to really monetize their content on Instagram. Unfortunately, you can't even run ads, which is something we need to get to. But do you feel, where do you think TikTok's going to settle out as far as the platforms and use in knife making?
I think the strange thing about TikTok is it's really touchy with knife content. I've already had a video taken down because I was chopping wood with it, and I can't think what they flagged it as, but it was taken down because of that. Even though it didn't go against any of the policy, it was something like dangerous act or something, and so that's where it'll sort of be a bit sketchy. So you've got to be cautious of what you actually put up. But one thing that I don't agree on with Instagram is Instagram's trying to be TikTok, but I think TikTok's TikTok because it's that, where Instagram should have stayed what it was, because everyone likes Instagram because of the way it is. Same as YouTube, you know, like Instagram's tried to be YouTube by having not the reels. They've got the reels, which is the IGTV, and they're starting to monetize that now. But still, it's not going to be a fraction on the cost of what you get from, because no one wants to sit. I find even getting people from Instagram to my YouTube is difficult because people don't want to sit there and watch a 3, 4, 5. Like what some videos like 20 minutes long. Who wants to sit on the phone and watch it? You want to be in your bed on your iPad or your laptop watching videos. So it's just not going to pull in the revenue that people think it needs to stay. Instagram pictures and video, that's it, the short-term stuff, rather than trying to. I think they all have their own benefits, and they all have their own problems as well.
TikTok does have a creators account, so you can actually get funding once you get, I think it's 100,000 subscribers.
It's bad.
Is it? I don't know. But
someone who I know got, I think it was 5 million views, and it was about $6 or something.
Oh my gosh!
It was right. Really, really bad. Just stop posting on there now because it was just that bad.
So,
but then again, YouTube's just started doing shorts. So YouTube is desperately trying to cling on to the TikTok.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're all trying to fight against each other. But just stick to your individual thing, and you know, you could bounce off each other, and you could all reel in the, you know, you could link it all together, so you can get the Instagram people from Instagram to YouTube and cross post or whatever. That'd work better than trying to steal their idea, because no one wants like I put some shorts up on YouTube and they're just rubbish. Like, it just doesn't work how we want it to work. I feel like it was old content anyway, but I just, once I put it up and it was there, and I just thought, why have you done that? I thought I'd try it out, but it was just, it sort of clogs up my feed of my actual videos now with just 2 rubbish shorts on there.
Yeah, people go to each platform for a specific type of content. I agree. They don't really want to. I've noticed they don't want to like try to figure out what's new on Instagram that mimics TikTok and all that stuff. As best I can tell. But so along these lines, I mean, how much time do you put out there for yourself to maintain a presence on all these platforms? I mean, what's reasonable as far as a creator? Are you going to spend more time making something or curating your social media presence? How much time are you guys spending? Go ahead.
I don't have any social media presence outside YouTube, pretty much. Yeah, so all my time is down to videos. I do like updates when I upload a new video on all the other socials, and that's it. So it's only YouTube for me.
So when
I'm
you
pretty much the same. I don't do a whole lot outside of YouTube. I do I might post a picture here or there on Instagram, but YouTube's pretty much. I don't even know what TikTok is. Like seriously, I've never seen it. I don't know what the format is, or I
Never
don't
use
know.
it either.
Good for you, man.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It's probably a bad thing.
Bad
but-
thing. Bad thing.
It's probably good, to be honest. I hated it for so long, but I'm on it now, and now everyone picks on me because
I made on it. Get on it.
I slated it for so long.
Dude, you used to get me grief, and I'm like,
And I'm like, go get on there, and then one day you just appeared on
TikTok.
TikTok.
It was either that or OnlyFans, so. My OnlyFans actually got taken down, so.
Yeah, it's so funny. So, how are knife makers treated on social media? What do you guys think? I mean, there's always this. We can't obviously advertise on Instagram. We've made a less CPM on YouTube for a very long time, although everyone's mileage varies on that a little bit depending on how desirable your YouTube determines your content is. But do you feel like knife making and knife makers are sort of under threat? How are we perceived? Are we at risk of censorship or deplatforming? What are y'all's thoughts?
I think that it's always going to be there. It's been there for years, but the problem, in my opinion on the problem, is a lot different. I feel like it's an art form in itself, and by trying to hide it, you're making the problem worse. You know, by like when I first got my unit, when I opened my workshop up, the woman wasn't going to let me have the unit because she knew that I made knives. Because she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Make knives," and she was taken aback by that because she was like, "Oh well, had people get stabbed on the news and that?" But I was like, "That's not, you know, like the majority of stabbings come from."
You do
like,
look
cheap
like that, Honor.
they come from like cheap kitchen knives, you know, what you can buy from a shop for like £1 or whatever. They're not coming from custom made knives, and I feel like that if they pushed it forward more, like the art form, and promoted that side of it, it'd take away from the hostility, and it'd make, you know, it'd give everyone a bit of sort of peace of mind. But I can't see him eventually stopping it because, like I've said to so many people, the one thing I feel like the majority of how even these people who are against knives, they've got them in the drawers. No matter what, you couldn't go through a full day without using a knife. No matter what it is, you couldn't not use a knife. It's one of the oldest tools we've had. Like, what? Go cut your bread. Oh, I can't because knives are banned. You know, like it's impossible to stop it. So, and it is a big business as well as that. I mean, it's a niche business, but it's a big business. And if they shut that side of things down, it's sort of like they're shooting themselves in the foot. At the end of the day, the people who own Instagram or own the social media, they want the people on there. And if they stop that side of things, they can limit it, yeah. But stopping it, I just don't see it. I mean, a lot of people say they will, but I just think it'd be a bad thing for them. And I mean, even if it's say, I mean, it's going to be in the millions and millions of people who do the knife making. You wouldn't want to lose that many people from your business if you stop the content.
I mean, that sort of happened before with like gun content and stuff like that. I mean, Gatter, what do you think? Would people go to an alternate platform for knife making content if something happened on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff? Could a platform rise from nowhere that would attract knife makers and knife making content, and people consume that content? Is there a way for knife making content outside of these platforms that everyone's already on?
I think it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
You know, people are going always through Facebook, YouTube. It's just the way it is. Like, who can come up and beat Google? Like, right now it's very unlikely. Even just for the infrastructure, and especially with videos, it's not that easy. Like in a practical way of setting up another space. I guess I'm not really an expert on that, but it must be difficult. And then why would people choose to go in another platform? You mentioned the gun and gun-related content on YouTube, and that happened, right? Like, YouTube decided to pretty much stop any kind of content of that kind by disabling any kind of monetization. Am I right?
Yeah, as far as I know, they demonetized most of the gun content. I think it's gone back and forth. There's some people who claim, interestingly, that when you see an ad in some of that content, it's not going to the content creator. that content creator has actually already been demonetized as a whole, their whole channel has, and that money is actually going to YouTube. That YouTube can run ads on someone without an agreement, an AdSense account, for example. It's just hearsay. I don't want to like light any fires or throw any grenades. But I've heard that complaint. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, I think for the most part, that stuff's demonetized. Yeah,
they can. I read it in one of the updates or whatever. They can run ads on you. You know, like obviously the people who they can't monetize. They can run ads on your thing. I actually had it on one of the Mace video that I had. It was demonetized for ages because it said it contained firearms instructions, which it didn't. But yeah, for ages, and I wrote on it that it was demonetized, and loads of people said no, and you've got, I had loads of people crying about it, saying you're still earning money, and you're saying you're not. But like it was still running ads, even though the work coming directly to me.
Oh really? No way.
Yeah, that feels crooked.
Damn.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I've had a handful of videos demonetized for no reason whatsoever. Just edge retention videos. It's just ridiculous. I think it's kind of going to be hard to demonize the knife making as a whole, because what do you do? Demonetize the knife makers and then continue to let chefs use knives? That seems. I wouldn't put anything past YouTube, but as far as like being fair and all, but I think it's gonna be hard to demonetize the whole knife making thing in general. Not to say that it would never happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of points around all that. For example, there's a difference between being demonetized. Certainly, YouTube claims your content is still circulated as well as the monetized content, but there's no way that's correct.
I don't know.
But being demonetized is different because advertisers, they don't have to. An advertiser doesn't have to agree to run an ad on your content. You have to respect to some extent the ability for an advertiser to choose where their ads go, right? So they don't have to run ads just willy-nilly. But on the other hand, it does affect circulation, it does affect access to the content, and at some point you move very close to what is essentially deplatforming without actual deplatforming, without canceling your channel and expunging you from social media. You can still effectively be semi-deplatformed, can't you?
I imagine you can. I'm not real sure, because you would think that, going back to the gun content, you would think that if, and I don't have, a firearms channel, and I don't really know anybody who does, well enough to really ask them, but there has to still be something in it because there's still people making content. So, I don't know if they're, completely demonetized or not. I don't know where, who gets that ad revenue if there is ads playing. I don't know. But there's still an awful lot of people who are doing it, so there has to be something worthwhile to it.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. And as well, I have noticed, because I watch a lot of the horror, like the horror channels, and I know a lot of those get demonetized as well. So I know that obviously if you speak to knife makers, they're going to be like, oh, we're getting demonetized and it's just knives, or the gun guys will be like, oh, it's just guns. But I think it's anything sort of in that respect as a whole. It's always going to have a space there where the algorithm doesn't know how to work it, so it's going to pick some out, Like I feel like my Mace video, it's monetized now, but I genuinely think it was flagged because it's a mace and because of the spray mace, which is classed as a firearm in some states. And I think that's the only reason it was flagged. And obviously that's where the problem lies, in an algorithm, which is, it's a computerized thing and it's looking at something. It can't denote that this is separate from that. It can't denote like just a bladed object isn't assaulting anyone. It's going to have problems. It's a computer till Skynet takes over, and then we're all done for.
So Toby, how worried should anyone who depends on social media income, how worried should they be about being deplatformed as a knife maker or demonetized?
Well, I think my thing on that is I'm very much of the never having all your eggs in one basket, which is part of the reason I probably out loud said the word wow when Garda said that he didn't have anything really use any other social media but YouTube. I don't trust anybody who I don't own, if that makes sense. I don't own the platform in any way. I own my own website, and that's it. And even that, if Squarespace decided to take me down, there was nothing I could do about it.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like being on just YouTube, if Mark Zuckerberg buys YouTube one day and decides that he wants to make Instagram really, really the thing for monetizing, and he decides to basically knock off all of the top players on YouTube, and to force them across to Instagram, or force a whole new group of people to start making money on Instagram. And this is a whole conspiracy. This is not conspiracy. This is just purely hypothetically. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. If you're fixed on one group or one platform, it actually only takes one tiny decision that's well out of your control to end your entire household monetary income and career, which is scary on its own. So I've always been very much of the I like to sort of not dabble, but I kind of try to master this to an extent and try to master that to an extent and work out kind of where to bring different revenues in, and never really rely on any of them, if that makes any sense. I think for people who do have everything in one basket, yeah, maybe I genuinely think they probably should be scared. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody, but I do think there is so many social media platforms. Sorry, Garda. Because like I say, it takes one decision that isn't yours. And I think like we look at like Vine and lots of platforms that came and went. That whilst they came and went, and certain people were massive on Vine, and then never went anywhere else. They were massive on Vine because they chose Vine to be their platform. And then by the time they got onto YouTube or Instagram, it already had a lot of big names, and they kind of really couldn't compete. They didn't understand the algorithm. They didn't know how to get to it, which is why when TikTok came out, I jumped straight on it, because I thought, I know it's supposed to be for 13-year-old girls. I get that, but I see adults on there, like looking at videos and putting videos on. Even if this thing disappears in a year, sure, I could probably learn something off this. No, I never looked at any 13-year-old girls, but you know what I mean. I thought if this does become a different platform, if it upscales, because we have to remember, YouTube, Facebook was created for 18, 19, 20-year-old kids in a single campus, in a single high school. And then it grew to other campuses to help them kind of connect with each other. And now the largest demographic on YouTube is over 60s. And Instagram was only photographers, pretty much. And now there's photography on there, but it's like a small part. Yeah. And TikTok was like 13-year-old girls lip syncing, whereas now you can't find a lip syncing. Well, I can't find a lip sync video on there because it's an algorithm. It only shows me what I want to see, like knife making or comedians or whatever. But it's upscaled, and the largest growing group of people on TikTok are like 35 to 45. So it's to me, you have to have all your eggs split around lots of different baskets. Outside of that, yeah, I would probably be a little bit afraid, to be honest. Short answer.
Well, thinking about baskets and where to spend your time, I want everyone to sort of answer this and go around and touch on it. Can you be a successful knife maker and make a living making knives without being successful on social media? Gatter, why don't you start?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
I don't know.
What's your guess? What do you intuitively? What would you suspect?
I would say yes. You can.
You can.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really good at something, you're going to connect with people directly. It's going to spread the word, just like it would on social. Probably on a smaller scale, it will probably take way more time than it does on socials. But I guess it like before any socials, there were still very famous mastersmiths and very well-known craftsmen all around the world. So it does the work to this day as well. But I don't know.
Honor, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to go with Gator on this one. I feel like it can still be done. Probably, if let's say if we started from now and going onwards, it'd be a lot more difficult than back then, because obviously there wasn't many people doing it then, so it was easier for them to spread the word of that. So it'd be harder to do, but I still think I know quite a lot of people who obviously they're on social media, but they don't have a big presence, you know. But they make knives, and they still run a business making knives with not a big following on a social media. So it is still possible.
Alex?
Yeah, I think you can too. I mean, I know people who, again, have, they have social media presence, but, they're definitely not, focused on social media, and they're making and selling lots of knives. So I definitely think you can. For someone like me who doesn't have a whole lot of natural talent, I definitely am going to need some sort of social media to make and sell knives. But
all right, well, that's I would have expected. Well, Toby, you go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, what I was going to say there is, I think actually Alex hit on it, sort of jokingly hit on an interesting point. I do know heaps and heaps of knife makers in Australia and America who have no social media presence. They're physically not on social media, and if they are, it's because their wife has made them or someone else in the industry have made them. Yet they are still making knives all day, every day, for customers that I've got a year waiting list or more waiting for knives to go out the door. I think that is not at an end, but I think, like Honor said, it's harder and harder for people to become that person now without social media presence. But if you already have it, a lot of the old collectors and that probably are only going to buy a few. I think if you're sub that level, which I most definitely am sub the level of all of those people, without hundreds and thousands more hours of work to get to that level, social media is not an easy way, but it is definitely an easier way of bringing in revenue, because people see the cool knife you made, or the whatever this or whatever that, or you're able to make a living easier, because there's always been that joke: you never get rich being a knife maker. If you want to make £1 million as a knife maker, you need to start with 2 million. And it's that whole thing of, you can sell knives, but unless you've got a massive following, you really need the Instagram and that to build it up. So I definitely think it's possible, but just not like it used to be.
Okay, so Toby, you're sort of implying that you can actually, that there's two different vocations here. Essentially, there's sort of a branding effort that you can add value to your knives in, as far as social media, and create a market for yourself and your knives. And then there's sort of this other track with some of the folks and Alex and some of you guys, Gad, or some of you guys know, who are very successful at making high quality knives. They built a name for themselves in the traditional sense, and they're almost sort of they're almost two different things. I mean, what I do, I don't make much, if any, money doing this. I make a little bit. It's not my vocation, but I'm certainly not known for the quality of my knives. I might have a small following for social media. So you're saying that those are sort of two distinct tracks, maybe, or?
yeah, I think they're two separate things, personally. I mean, like for me, I don't really consider myself a knife maker. I more consider myself a YouTuber who makes knives. So, I mean, my focus is on making videos, maybe not making the best, craziest knife out there. And, but yeah, I think they're two separate things. Well, for me, they are anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Honor, what do you think?
Well, I was just having a think there, and I sort of see it as, if we sort of take it back years, like, let's say years and years ago, someone would pay for an article in a newspaper advertising the knives, and all social media is a bigger advertisement on a bigger grand scale. But years ago, some people couldn't afford to advertise, but there's still word of mouth is a good advertisement. So all social media does really is spread the word quicker than it would do anyway, if that makes sense. Anyway.
It does.
Yeah, it does make sense, but like I was gonna say it makes sense, but if you're really good at making videos and less good at making knives, you can still like make a living of social presence, and that's like
right. So it is sort of maybe two different things. Maybe for some people it's all one big effort. Yeah, I think I get that. So along the lines of creating content, what are y'all's thoughts? I think I sort of said this to you guys the other day, but there was a time maybe as recently as 4 or 5 years ago where I felt like I could really just consume everything on YouTube. There was enough time in my day to look at all the knife making content. I loved it, and I just dove right into it, and I could just take in everything that was out there basically, and still need to go get some books and seek out other information. But I feel like nowadays that it's just this very saturated market, even on Instagram, some of these other platforms. Like I can't take in all the videos that I want to see on knife making because there's just too many of them. And then at some point, I start to get a little discouraged with trying to find quality content, and I don't want to get too far into one video or try new things because I'm afraid, since there's so much out there, that I'm missing something else that's better. And it's almost become sort of a frustrating experience for me as a consumer. What do you guys think? Are you having similar concerns or frustrations?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think over the last several years it's exploded on YouTube. I think a lot of that's due to Forged in Fire. It's just, I don't watch as much, knife making stuff as I used to. I really don't watch a whole lot of it at all anymore. And I think it's kind of the same thing. It's just everybody does it now. It's hard to really get into, it's hard to really get into it now. I don't know what it is.
Do you think it's...
Yeah, we are... Go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, Gatter, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, like, we all make content, we all make videos. That takes a lot of time. Like, before I started making videos, I had way more time for watching other people work. And like you say, Steve, I used to watch every single video about making that I could find. Nowadays, it's impossible. There are more, and I have less time. So I guess maybe there are other people that can watch all of it and are even seeking for more, maybe. Maybe it's just our perspective, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, we sort of lost Toby here, so I'm trying to make sure he's back in. Toby, you there? You got it?
I'm in.
Okay, I got you now. Okay. So
Lost internet, sorry.
So we were, Gatter was just...
Too many children on the internet.
Too many children consuming too many YouTube videos. That's what we were talking about. So I'd like sort of, Toby, you and Honor to weigh in next on this. We were talking about the amount of content out there and if that's a good thing or bad thing or neutral, and maybe how you distinguish yourself.
I mean,
Gatter was sort of
Lost
saying
internet, sorry.
he agrees it's overwhelming sometimes.
too many children on the internet.
Go.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Who's doing? Yeah, I think everyone is obviously right here because we're all in the same boat. To start off with, we all wanted to watch the content because we wanted to create the content, and it gives you that sort of spur on. And then eventually, you're doing it all day, you're making the content all day, and the time sort of becomes smaller and smaller. I mean, I'll get up on a morning, take my kids to school, go to work, finish work, come home, eat tea, like I do a podcast with Toby, and then I've got to edit video, or I've got to answer emails to people who are ordering stuff, and there's just not much time at all to sit there and watch. Like, I do still enjoy watching knife content every now and again, but just not every day. So I watch other stuff, and if it comes to like nights when I'm not sleeping, then I'll put some on there. But it is oversaturated as well. There's just so much. I mean, you could put like, say, search like a certain knife on there, and there's just a lot to look through. And the problem is as well, it's oversaturated, and not all of them are good. Like there's so many people who make good knives, and there's just. I think over lockdown, everyone thought they were going to just become a YouTuber, and it was just, I don't know, I can't work anymore because I've been put on, I've been released from my job, so I'll start with YouTube. And I agreed with YouTube when they said they were going to not monetize till past 1,000 subscribers because of that, because it's sort of going to put people off, and the people who really want it are going to push to that. And the people who are just like, oh, I'll try it, oh, it's not working, they'll go and it does need sort of filtering out a lot more to wean out the poorer videos.
Toby, along those lines, I mean, do you ever feel like there's a proliferation of podcast content? I mean, do you feel like this everyone can publish anything they want at any time, like whether it's on Instagram, a podcast, YouTube video? Is that a threat to you? Is that a threat to someone who makes a legitimate product?
Well, I think Honor and I are good enough evidence that you can make any old junk and put it on the internet. Look, I think there is some really poor podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I genuinely enjoy listening to them. And even some of the ones that do quite well, the audio is shocking, and it's the same old issues as YouTube. It's very hard to watch a video which has got terrible video or terrible audio. With podcasts, it's the same. And you do kind of get a lot of people with companies like Anchor and that make it really very easy to pick your phone up, press record, and it literally through their app it'll upload as a podcast. I tend to think that humans have an almost insatiable need to consume stuff. So if you are any good, there'll always be someone looking or listening or watching. If you're no good, they won't. Or if you kind of stale and you sort of stay the same and it kind of goes out of fashion, you also may not be able to keep up with that. So I'm sort of not really afraid of someone putting me out of a job, to be honest, because one, I make no money out of it really, very little. But two, I don't sort of. I feel like I spend a lot, probably too much time thinking, what can I change? What can I do differently? How can we make this funnier, more interesting? How can I make the sound better quality? Those sorts of things, so we stay on the top of our game, so it doesn't end up being stale. And I am seeing more and more podcasts disappear. Interestingly enough, another friend of mine did who does a podcast, and they've been around a lot longer than us. Only did a podcast about this a couple of weeks ago, about kind of the old guard are all disappearing. The original podcasts are all disappearing, and they're kind of following a lot of the people who started podcasts a year ago, because there was a funny saying that went around. A few of my mates started saying, like, nobody needs to hear another white guy's podcast because he's bored at home. And there's just it's I don't know what it's got to do with white people, but it was just this funny thing. There was this massive build up of dudes who had nice jobs who suddenly decided they were going to be a podcaster because they were at home. And there's just all these like white guy podcasts that really were very vanilla. There was not a lot to them, and they're all disappearing again. So no, I'm not. I don't think I'm afraid of it. I don't really have too many issues. I'm always looking for something new to listen to myself, so I'm kind of okay. Like the others, I don't consume a lot of content. The only time I consume knife making videos really is because I understand the algorithm. If it's like Honor, I'll watch Honor's videos, not because they're any good, but because I want to help him with one more watch. Or my mate Dan Moss, same thing. I joke, they're both very good, and the same as apart from that, and if I want to learn something very specific, at which point I'll fast forward my way through videos to find the thing I want. I don't tend to consume much like content. I tend to consume something very different. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So
we're all the same.
What's that, Gatter?
We are all the same, pretty much. All in the same position with what we watch and so on.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. So along the lines of consumption, I looked on Google the other day, and there's different articles about how much how much we consume as far as social media, and the best I can tell, teenagers are spending between 7 and 9 hours per day on internet-driven content, whether that's a streaming video or social media, but news maybe. I don't know. That was just sort of there was actually figures that went higher than that. I didn't know that there were that many waking hours in the day. But let's pretend that's accurate. It seems high, maybe, but let's say it's just 5 hours a day. That seems extreme. How much content are you guys personally consuming in social media per day?
Half an hour.
An hour? Who said an hour?
I said half an hour, maybe.
Half an hour? Is that all? Really? Man, good for you.
I swear. Yeah.
Wow. Honor, you got a sheepish grin. What are you thinking?
Well, you know, like at the end of the week, my phone gives me it tells me how long I've spent on certain things, and yeah,
fun.
my at one week, me and my missus were obviously having an argument in bed and arguing about spending our time on the phone. And then we like said, she was like, "Oh, you spend so much time on your phone." And I said I've been on it like half an hour. You know, like I thought I haven't been on it that long. And then so we've got our phones out and compared, and like I think it said 6 hours in a day spent on you know, on the internet, on social media or stuff like that. And I honestly thought to myself, like how have I even done that? Spent 6 hours. But then there's times when you're just sitting there and you're just scrolling. You probably, you know, like you're in a world of your own. Like I've seen my missus do it, and you say, "What are you doing?" And she's just scrolling on Facebook. She's not necessarily like taking reference of anything. She's just scrolling, and that just adds up by the end of the day. And so all this time, especially for kids as well, they're not, you know, like they're probably doing it at school, they're doing it at home. So yeah, the amount of time they spend on social media, it sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, Toby, what do you think? How much time are you spending?
Scarily enough. See, I think we have a bit of an excuse on her because a lot of ours is content creation, not content consumption. So it's different. It's work.
Sure.
I have to say sometimes this is work to my kids when they say you're on your phone. I probably think it's more than it should be. Although that said, I spend a lot of time like on my website and packing orders and that sort of stuff. So it's not like it could be. But as a household, scarily enough, we're pretty hard on our kids about Facebook, about YouTube and that sort of stuff. But I know, like my youngest one, Indigo, that kid will walk around with headphones on, holding her iPad whilst doing the dishwasher, whilst going to the toilet, whilst getting dressed, and I have to shout at her and go, put the thing down. Like, you don't need that on constantly. And she'll put it down, and then like you turn around, she's got it on again. She's holding the iPad, got the headphones on, and no one can hear it because it's got headphones on, so no one really notices it's going on. But I wouldn't be surprised if she could easily get, when she's not at like schooling, especially now during the holidays, she could probably get 6-7 hours, unless someone tells her off.
Sounds like me.
Well, I try not to spend a heap of time on there because I know I spend too much time on the screens and that anyway, doing stuff like the website and whatnot. But I don't watch telly, to be fair, so I watch very, very little telly. So I think that's kind of makes up for it. It's the new telly, right?
It is, yeah.
I've just pulled up my thing from Thursday, which I spent 6 hours and 16 minutes on. 2 hours, 5 minutes on Instagram, 44 minutes on TikTok, 40 minutes on Facebook, 20 minutes on WhatsApp, 90 minutes on Safari.
You ran the gamut, man. You covered it all.
Covered it all. I want to know how you found that.
Yeah, I do find that. I'm looking it for as well.
Have you got iPhones?
My phone does that.
No, I've got quality phone.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go then. Well, it's a thing on iPhone. It's a screen time, and you click on that, and then it says see activity, and I could scroll through and check them. Like today, it's only been an hour and a half on Instagram. That's all.
My results are a lot like yours, Honor, and I don't know. I have trouble recounting in my head exactly how I accumulated all that time.
Strange, isn't it?
It is. Alex, what are you doing these days on social media? How much do you consume?
I think I'll just say just to fill a bit of time, Steve. I actually we demonise social media and we demonise the amount of time on the phones, but this is, you have to think every single day that goes past, this is the least amount of time that as a society we're going to spend on social media. So and on the internet and all that sort of stuff. So when our kid in 20 years time, everything our children do is going to be work, business work, everything is going to be related through some form of internet transaction. So yes, we demonise it, but a lot of what they're doing kind of is training them for further on in life. They're going to have a greater understanding, and the ones who have the best knowledge and the best abilities are the ones that are probably going to end up being right now who are the stockbrokers and the bankers and the people that make good money. You only have to look at things like gaming.
Yeah.
20 years ago, well, even any time, like we get told off for playing, we tell our kids off for gaming, and everyone tells their kids off for gaming. For years, people tell their kids off for gaming, but how many people now are making millions of pounds a year as gamers, like you can go to places in Japan and you can sit in a stadium that used to be a football stadium and watch 40 people play against each other on computer consoles, and these guys earn multi-millions a year for playing games and letting people watch, and Twitch stars and all that sort of stuff. Like, I do think we've got to be careful not to over-demonise stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right there, but it's sort of like a happy medium, isn't it? Like, people will over demonize and then people under demonize it as well. You know, like people like, oh yeah, you know, like I know so many people whose kids don't want to, like, even my eldest, you know, like I said to him, what do you want to be when you leave school? I want to be a YouTube gamer. I was like, don't even think about it, mate. Go to school, go to university. Yeah. Don't even, like, because this is coming from someone who's on YouTube. Like, by the time you get out of school and you start a YouTube channel, it's not even going to be worth doing it. But yeah,
the new thing will be.
It's happy
interesting.
Medium.
It's interesting you brought that up, Honor. Wasn't there like some sort of poll about a year ago? I forgot now who did it, but it was asking kids what they want to be when they grew up. And they're comparing answers from now to like 50 years ago. And the answers are now like the number one used to be like astronaut, teacher, whatever. Now it's like YouTube star. And these are like 6-year-old kids and stuff. And I just have to wonder how healthy that is. But Toby brought up a good point, like how much of this is preparing us for the future, where essentially people work virtually now. Like you alluded to, Toby, they attend meetings virtually. You can have a career, essentially a virtual career, one that's supported entirely online. But isn't there a distinction between social media and virtual realities or interactions, other interactions, knowledge seeking, that sort of thing in online? I think of specifically, have you guys seen The Social Dilemma by Netflix, the Netflix special? Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you guys make of that? Did you feel like, I'll just say this, in the context of that show, as a knife maker, do you feel like you're part of the problem or part of the solution, or neither?
Neither. Yeah, I mean, like, there are different uses for even social. Like, if you do it just to fill up your time and don't think of anything, or if you're stuck somewhere and like no brain scroll through anything, is one thing. But like if you're looking for inspirational content or instruction, or there are a lot of people that do instruction, like not instruction, what do you want to say, instructional, no,
inspirational,
like teaching,
educational,
educational, yeah, that's the word,
right?
Like educational content, like it's a whole other story, I think.
What do you guys think?
I wouldn't really think I do have like a big grudge on certain things on social media. I think social media in itself causes problems because they push stuff like women in underwear because they're Instagram models rather than pushing creative. You know, you've got, like, to me, I think to myself, if I'm taking pictures of myself in my underwear and posting it on social media, is that gaining me anything when I retire? Once I retire, what do I get from that? Nothing. Whereas if you're doing stuff like educational, you know, like learning to make knives, learning to make sculptures, learning to make, you know, like woodworking, all sorts of if you can feed that to your kids, it's going to show them something constructive that can make a career out of it, and they can retire off that career as well. And so I feel like social media, by helping push stuff which isn't, you know, it's I don't really know how to explain it, but they're not really pushing the correct type of content. I'll just blame social media.
Who is social media? Social media, empty pipelines. We've already said they're an algorithm. They're showing people what you want to see. So if you're seeing boobies, mate, you know why that is. But
anybody hear me?
I know. But here's my point. Here's my point. And I sort of made it earlier. If you look at my TikTok and my daughter's TikTok, she goes, "Oh, I love your TikTok. It's so much more creative than mine." I'm like, that's because that's what I watch, and the algorithm has learned that's what I want to see. They're empty pipes. Like, social media is literally showing you more of the thing you want to see. So, if it really did start like blocking some stuff and pushing other stuff, like if it started blocking bikini shots and only pushing creative stuff, then that would be exactly the same as what we're saying that YouTube is doing to us by lowering the level of knife makers, it would be this sort of force of movement of the algorithm. It's literally, you can't have it both ways. I don't think. I think there's humans. It's just showing what we're looking at.
Yeah. So Toby, you're saying it's just feeding our natural appetites. Basically, what human nature is sort of predominates the content, and every little crevice of the back of our mind, this, our subconscious sort of finds its way, bubbles to the surface on social media. That's sort of how I think about it. Is eventually the algorithm is really learning our deepest, truest selves and which part of our brains govern us the most, and that's sort of essentially the type of content that people gravitate to, for better or for worse. I sort of agree with Toby. It takes some curation. The question is, how do you curate? Does a platform curate? Do you self-curate like Toby? Do you put some sort of virtue in the AI to sort of pick out what people need to see to make a more virtuous society, or one with more quality content, the type of content Honor was alluding to? I know Honor was talking about pictures of himself in underwear, and I'm anxious to know where he's posting those. But as far as virtuous content, it just begs the question, like, what is the role of these platforms? What is our role? Do we have a role, or are we just making fun content that is rather innocuous compared to some of the other things you find on the internet? I don't know. I mean, it's a very sort of deep question as to where all this technology takes us and where we want it to take us, I guess. I mean, do you guys think there's...
I want meaning like to obviously limit their thing, but I mean, social media itself is to blame, because that's what, like what's pushing, like Toby says, that's what people are watching. I mean, for a while on my thing, the only reels what were coming up were just women in scantily clad, and bearing in mind, I know that everyone will say that I was probably watching it. I wasn't searching, I wasn't watching. I use my Dies in Every Film page on Instagram solely for knife content and anything around what I do on purpose. And for some reason, for a while, I don't know if it was an algorithm change or anything, but it was just women running down the beach in underwear and stuff like that, which
sometimes the algorithm tries, like, you are between 30 and 40 years old, you like bikini girls,
Yeah.
perhaps you like this one, and if you go down the road and actually watch the content, you're gonna get more and more. I had that happen to me, the same, like you were saying, Honor.
they're just like, male underwear.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like
you can click on the little eye in the corner, can't you? And it tells you that. The reason I say, why am I seeing this? And it says you're between 28 and 30, 40, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's.
I clicked on it to say that I don't want to see it, like the same as they do with adverts. If it's adverts which are pertaining to what I want to look at, then I'll cancel it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only that. Sometimes I also have like weird dental things like that randomly show up in my feed. Like, what the fuck? Why? Do you have the same? It's not only me.
On Instagram, I get a bunch of dudes in muscle shirts selling me protein. And I don't know why. I've never clicked on that stuff. It's like you said. It's clearly at some point. It's clearly decided I'm a male of a certain age that maybe has an interest in bodybuilding or something, or keto or something. I don't know, but I'm not sure that's entirely correct. Maybe I lingered too long. I didn't swipe quick enough on some screen.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It is also like you do get a choice. Like I've tried to do a few Facebook and Instagram accounts, and you do choose. So I'll go through and say, well, I think men from 18 to like 55 in this area, and I want this to be sponsored ad. And if it's for stuff I'm selling, then it will be UK. If it's for videos or whatever, or podcast, and which I have tried doing a few times, it'll be around the world. And so I kind of only then, when I realised, in fact, I'm the person picking these things, I could then see why other people were picking them. So most of them have got a company behind them. Some I got to say, I look at it and go, who is doing this, and what's the, what can they possibly be making out of it? I don't understand why someone's done a sponsored ad for this. But I think once people start putting it in, the algorithm just nicks that information. It's like, well, then if people are using that, that's what we'll use, sort of thing. Because who better than Facebook to be able to sell stuff to you than, like, if it doesn't have to do any work, it's just got to copy which ones are doing best.
Yeah. So when we feed content into these systems that are used to keep people on these platforms to advertise to them, manipulate them, essentially. I mean, I don't know how deep into that rabbit hole you guys want to get, but are we contributing in any way to this environment, this system that essentially may not be good for people, even though our content is innocent enough? Are we still part of the issue, part of the problem, or not? Alex, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Okay. I haven't been able to see or hear anything for like the last 10 minutes.
You didn't miss much.
Just Toby talking.
I don't know what's going on.
We're talking about sort of social media in the context of that Netflix show, The Social Dilemma, and maybe how we're manipulated and our attention is used, and how we're fed certain content. And the question is, since we contribute content to these platforms, they are certainly using that content within their algorithms to keep people's attention and do other things and manipulate them, even though our content is, I would say, innocent enough. Are we at some level part of the problem if we generate content for these platforms?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest. I mean, it seems like it's such a complicated thing. It's like, how does the algorithm work? I don't think any one person really knows. So I really don't know how to even approach that, answering that.
What do you guys think?
I'll take a hit at it because that's different. I actually think it's yes and no. It's both. In one way, we're just pawns as well. In the same way, the people watching, our content is being used and by an algorithm that we don't understand, just like Alex said, and it's being fed the best way the algorithm believes to keep people's eyes on the computer as long as possible, or the TV or whatever it is, as long as possible. So if it thinks that our stuff's best at the time, it'll use it. If it doesn't, it'll dump it and completely ignore that it exists, and in some ways block it. But at the same time, yes, I suppose in a way we are kind of helping feed that, because if nobody ever created content again, the algorithm would die. It requires a certain amount of in-feed to be able to compute and spit out the other end. I think someone's going to do it, and maybe it's being, I don't know, foolish saying someone's going to do it, we may as well be the ones. But at the same time, I think we're probably just as much a pawn as the people looking at the end.
Yeah. Well, I think regarding that, I'd probably just say that social media is one big giant cog, and we're all tiny little cogs which help spin that thing. If it needs all those cogs to spin, and I do blame social media as a whole, but not because obviously it was created and it started this whole new thing, and it's with that whole new thing there's always going to be problems, like anything. It's going to have its good side, it's going to have its bad side, and then everyone else is feeding into that. Just like one individual person is going to cause different problems than another individual person, and different people are going to get different problems from social media. I mean, some people have a body confidence with social media. Some people find that they're not very confident because of social media. It's right. Humans, we're strange things, and everyone's to blame, but everyone is also not to blame, I think, is my answer.
Yeah, human nature is strange. Gatter, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't feel like we have a big role in this problem at all. We are not feeding the bad content into the beast. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me too. I got one last sort of comment question. I get a lot of motivation looking at my Instagram feed, for example, which is all, Bladesmith posts, and like I said, muscle shirt guys. But the trade-off is that I'm sort of constantly comparing myself to other makers who are always superior to me. I'm a mid-grade, I put myself as sort of an average maker. So I'm always comparing myself and trying to combat the resulting self-doubt with sort of positive feedback from my own contents. I look to my comments or circulation of my videos and things like that. And I'm wondering, even though Instagram is an invaluable way for me to see what's going on in the community, I mean invaluable, it's truly a very powerful tool. But isn't it also, hasn't it turned me at the age of 47 into emotionally like a teenage girl? And I think the answer is to some degree, yes. Like to some degree, it also makes me insecure and anxious sometimes. And I'm, like I said, I sort of go back to my own content and look for some positive comments. And I'm always trying to, you're always like comparing yourself and doing this little dance. Do you guys have the same issue at all? Do you feel like it's 100% good for you, or do you have concerns?
I think it's good, but it's like I said before, it's how you perceive it. I mean, if we could go to so basic, like sometimes I'll post a video or I'll post something and people will say something like, oh, if I had all those tools, I could do that, but I wouldn't look at that. I wouldn't look at that the same way. I'd look at someone with all the tools making that and I'd think one day I want that. So I'm going to work from where I am now up to that. The same as you see people who make amazing knives. I don't think to myself, oh, I'll never make that, or, oh, well, yeah, that'd be easy if I was that guy, but then I'm going to get up off my bum and drive to that, there's ambition in there. And I think it's also a bad thing, because then you're looking at your knives and you're always going to doubt your knives because of that ambition, because you want the best. And I'd rather be someone who wants the best and constantly picking up flaws in my own stuff and get better and better, than just look at it and be happy with what I've got and never get any better and never change. There are lots of people who I follow, and I'm not slating them for that, but I've followed them for maybe 4 years, and they're the same. Like the knives then are the same now. There's no change in anything. They've not developed anything different, and that might work for them. But for me, I want to make it. I want to get as far as I can get. It's the future for my kids. At the end of the day, I want to leave like something for them when I go.
So it's a challenge and you rise to it, basically.
Yeah.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, it can definitely be intimidating. I mean, like you scroll through Instagram, I mean, you got to remember, like, some of these people, like, they're the best in the world at what they do. And, you're just seeing it all the time. And it's especially, I think, if you're starting from nothing, it can definitely be intimidating. Especially for me, like I'm just a beginner, on the grand scale. So, it's, I can't make stainless Damascus and all this other stuff. I just don't have that kind of equipment or, know-how at this point. But it's definitely, it can be inspiration, but at the same time, it can definitely be intimidating and just make you not even want to try in some aspects.
Yeah, sounds a little bit like me. Can be my reaction at times too. Gatter, how do you feel about it?
I'm positive about this. Like, I am a very mediocre knife maker as well. I'm decent at making videos, not so much making knives. And I know it myself. So when I see other people that do like crazy, awesome things, I just it's an inspiration to me more than I'm never gonna be there. Like, probably I'm never gonna be there, to be honest, because there are some people that have just like insane skill that I don't even know how much time you would put into one single skill to know that as good as they do. And also the problem with what I do, at least, I'm very generalist. I cover many different things, so I don't want to focus all in one thing and be the best at that thing. But at the same time, if I see something that is epic and great, it doesn't bother me. It's more inspiration, yeah.
Yeah, so you look at those people with innate ability or highly polished skills, and you find beauty and joy in that for what it is, and inspiration. That's the mature response. I wish someday I'll get there, maybe. Toby, what do you think?
Interestingly enough, when you said that, I tend to think of social media as like the school playground, and it's just that on a much greater level. And so there was always the person that was better at running. There was always the kid who was like born muscly somehow. There was always the hot girl, and then there was, you know what I mean. There was always people that were better than you, but then there was bullies, and there's always. You were never quite perfect. You were never quite right, and if you weren't able to accept yourself then, I think all of us are still kind of kids in a way. We look at stuff then that goes on now, and it's really easy to say, oh man, that's loads better than I could ever do, or anything like that. And I think I found myself, especially when I first started doing YouTube videos, I haven't had heaps of negative comments on other stuff, but YouTube videos I had a lot of negative, or some negative comments, and it made me pretty mad. It made me, and I'm sure we've had it, I know Honor's got a great way of dealing with it, but I would sort of think, you don't know me, you don't get to say that, like, you don't know who I am, that's not fair. And I would start out kind of trying to defend myself in comments, and it would never make it better, and that sort of stuff. And I got to a point where I heard a quote, again, I love quoting Gary Vee, but where Gary Vee said, like, the problem with most people who spend their days never really doing anything, it's because they're almost disabled and paralyzed by, like, how good everybody else is. And part of that problem is they take all their self-esteem and they think they're great because the comments tell them they're great. But and if you build your self-esteem on what people think of you, when someone says something negative, that's all you're based on. So you're going to end up, it's going to hit you much harder. And I sort of realised I never got bullied at school. I didn't. I had fights. Like, people tried to bully me, but I weirdly didn't take it. I got beat up. I just didn't accept the bullying. And it was built in. It wasn't something someone taught me. And I realised, why the heck am I letting these people online kind of make me feel bad about myself when I already think I'm great, to be honest. Probably too great, if you ask my wife or Honor. And so I thought, well, hang on, why am I basing all my self-esteem on what all the nice things people have said, if it's going to affect me when they say negative stuff? And I just started saying, like, oh yeah, thanks man, appreciate that. But really not taking that to heart any more than I took the negative stuff to heart. And now people say stuff and I kind of feel bad for them and just laugh, to be honest, when I see that kind of negative stuff. And it's the same when I see awesome knives online. I think I can actually quite easily look at it and go, I'll never make that. And it doesn't make me sad. I just look at it and go, I'm not prepared to put the 100,000 hours in to Mosaic Damascus to make a knife that looks like that. I'm just not. Because I have too many other priorities, children and business and whatever else. But I am prepared to keep working hard to make my knives better. So I look at it and go, great inspiration, but it doesn't really hurt. And I don't know. I think that probably has been a protector for me, because I haven't let myself get kicked about by people I don't even know. Actually, I'm not interested in doing stuff just to impress people I don't know. As long as the people who know me love me, I don't care. It's really like people who genuinely know me. You know what I mean? Yeah, Honor loves me, and my wife loves me. That's about it. It's all that matters. It's all right.
Well, that's very mature as well. I think divesting yourself sort of emotionally from all that you've essentially divorced yourself from social media in a way, which is probably healthy, maybe to some degree. So, well, guys, that's sort of all I had. We worked through that quickly. So, on our way out, why don't we just circle around? You guys can give some closing thoughts, and maybe we have time to hear what everyone's up to or what everyone's excited about. Alex, you want to start?
Yeah, I guess considering I keep losing. Yeah, I mean, hopefully I end up getting back to YouTube soon. I've been kind of taking a hiatus the past year, but I'm definitely going to be coming back in full force relatively soon. So that's pretty much what where I'm at right now.
I really love your videos, man. They're so quirky, and they have this sense of humor I really identify with, and they're also sort of pseudoscientific, like I try to be sometimes. So I want you to know I really appreciate your content, for sure. Toby, what do you think?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, a pleasure. I'm so glad you're here. Toby?
Yeah, I'm with Steve on that. Alex, I searched and searched and searched finally for a good Mike Carter video, and your Mike Carter video ended up being my favourite one. Because it was just so honest. It was just like, I stuffed this up and stuffed this up, but this is kind of how it worked out best in the end.
Yeah, that was an interesting video to make, for sure.
Yeah, well, and I appreciated it. I thought that was a really good video. And that's how I found you, actually, interestingly enough, with that one. So,
Okay, cool.
I'm similar. I haven't actually made a video since I moved here because I didn't have a workshop and all that. It's been 8 months maybe closer to a year since I made a video. But again, weirdly, fully intend to get a video up in the next month. But yeah, I guess sort of closing statements. I think I think I've had a few people say to me, "Do you think it's too late to get into YouTube? Do you think it's too late to kind of be a YouTuber?" And I think it's much harder than it was like 10 years ago. If you were good 10 years ago, you're probably doing well now, as long as you've kept innovating and that sort of stuff. But I definitely think you have to be much better now. But if you're good, you can still get somewhere. Like you definitely can still get somewhere. And as long as you're willing to diversify between different social medias, I think even now you can still make a pretty good living without kind of having to be too spammy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess it's one of those. If you're trying to not constantly create something, but you're just sort of documenting what you do, life is much easier, because you just, like Honor does it very well in his stories, you're just talking about what you're doing day to day, and people will kind of start to follow the storyline because they want to see where you're up to and that sort of thing. So thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure. Toby, you know how much I enjoy talking to you, honestly. One of the best conversational type podcasts out there. I really, really enjoy listening to you and Honor. And I wish you were back in the video game a little stronger, but maybe someday you'll have time. In the meantime, I just have fond memories, I guess. But such a pleasure to have you here, and I hope people in the UK find your Knifemaker supply shop. I'll put a link in the description. And thank you so much for being here. Honor, final words. What do you got?
I'd say one of my final words is, if you're watching someone's content on YouTube, please don't tell them how they're doing it wrong, and please don't try and tell them anything like that, because just let them do what they're doing. And also, you ain't got a time machine to go back in time and change how they did that. So if they did it wrong, just let them do it wrong. So, yeah, I'm constantly making videos. I'm actually just trying to free up time so that I can start putting out 2 a month again, because I went down to like 1 every now and again, and it's I sort of got bored of making as many knives as I've been making, to be honest, and sort of missed making the content. And yeah, so I'm getting back into it, and hopefully one day I'll make more than 2 a month. If I just need to like if Toby moves to Scarborough, he can film me do stuff, and then I can just do other stuff. But you know, I'll keep trying to persuade him.
No one will understand my accent there.
Well, Honor,
Sorry, I'll let you.
Go ahead. Finish you.
I was going to say thanks for having me on. I mean, it's good to be on with all these people. You know, I think all of you actually since I first started making videos, I've watched and spoken to pretty much all of you ever since the beginning. So it's good to be on a podcast with you all. It's
been a pleasure having you. I remember catching you when you were first starting out, and we almost tried to do a collaboration, if I remember correctly. The timing didn't work out or something, but I've been checking in on you every once in a while, subscribed, and I've really enjoyed your content too. And you're one of those guys who's just powered through a YouTube presence, and I feel like I've watched you progress in a way that I wish I could progress. And so I'm so happy that you took the time to be here and are talking, and a real pleasure. I'll check you and Toby out as usual on your podcast. So Toby Fireside Podcast. Gatter, what do you think?
Hey, so I'm gonna go against Honor and ask you to come and tell me what I did wrong in my videos. So I have more comments, more views. Perfect. Just
right.
joking, of course.
Yeah, so
thank you very much for having me.
The 4 of us are going to check in on your channel after this podcast.
Thank you. Come and tell me.
We'll be giving a lot of feedback.
See what I was saying, Gator, it's a double negative. You know, if I tell them not to do it, they're going to go, well, why is he telling me what to do? And they'll come and do it. So.
All right, anything else, Gatter?
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, of course. Much appreciated.
Pleasure was ours. You have such a successful channel. We can all learn something from you, and I'm always impressed with how clean everything is in your shop, and you're to be commended for that, because I have such a dirty shop. And again, watching the rise of your channel has also been very inspirational, and you have kept this very much clean, quality, family type of product going, and I think it's very commendable. So very lucky to have you here. All right, guys, I think
Thank you.
that was it. We'll wave bye-bye. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.